Where Winds Meet is a wuxia open-world action RPG set in ancient China. It puts you in the role of a wandering martial artist navigating a world built around political tension, deep lore, and some genuinely striking environments. It's available cross-platform on PC, PS5 and mobile, and on top of all that, it's completely free to play. Since Where Winds Meet launched in 2025, it's seen huge worldwide success, mainly due to its fluid combat, amazing visuals, and enough content between exploration, bosses, story collection and more to keep you busy for hours and hours. One of the things that stood out to me is how they've handled the multiplayer side of the game, and I want to get into that straight away because there is more to it than you may expect. This is more than just a single player RPG. This video is sponsored by Where Winds Meet, so if you're interested and you want to support the channel, definitely give them a look via the link down below. So for anyone coming from WoW or a more traditional MMORPG background, Where Winds Meet has more to offer than you may initially expect. It has third-person action combat, a massive open world, PvP and PvE running alongside each other, as well as a huge amount of story and more. There's well over 150 hours of solo campaign content that functions as kind of the leveling experience, and everything you earn there in terms of the levels, gear and martial arts carry directly over into multiplayer versions of the game too. On the guild side, guilds and Where Winds Meet have their own levels, currencies and a shared progression system, with a guild base that includes arenas, crafting stations and social spaces, similar to a kind of garrison or guild hall. There are weekly guild dungeons with lockouts, which will feel pretty familiar to WoW players, and large-scale 30 versus 30 battles too. Beyond player guilds there are sects. These are NPC-run factions, more like WoW's reputation system, where you align with one and then take on their goals and restrictions. PvP, very similar to WoW Arena, covers 1v1, 3v3 and 5v5 alongside the guild battle modes. And on the PvE side of things, there are instance dungeons for 5 to 10 players, 10-player raids as well as world bosses. There's also a profession system with healing, blacksmithing, martial specializations and more, and this is all built around a player economy. So really it depends how you want to play on any given day. Most games in this genre make a choice, either you're playing an MMO with the open world all of the time, or you're playing a single player RPG where the story is just yours alone. Where Winds Meet doesn't really make that choice, instead it gives you 3 distinct ways to engage with the same game. So whether you want to grind solo, hop on public lobbies to see what's happening or group up with friends, you can play exactly as you want. First up is solo mode. This is effectively the full single player experience. The world is yours, the story progresses at your pace, and NPCs populate the world as you'd expect. You're not bumping into other players while you're trying to follow a cutscene, the atmosphere stays grounded, and it plays like a proper RPG. Online mode shifts things to a shared world. Other players are around you, there are guilds, social interactions, public events, PvP, and all those more traditional MMO-style social features. The main story doesn't progress here, but if you want the feeling of living within a world with other players, that's where this is happening. Online mode is really about making your own story within the world, and for MMO players specifically, this is the game mode that will feel the most at home. You have guild infrastructure, sects to join, dungeons to clear, PvP, and so on. There's also a bounty system that's been built around player-driven conflict too. And between the single player and online mode, you have co-op mode, and this is probably the most interesting one to explain. You can have up to 5 players join your world directly and progress through content together, so side quests, taking on bosses, exploring the map and more. Importantly, this does run on the host quest progression, so you and your friends are moving through the same content rather than being funneled into a separate instance version of it. Think of it as kind of a party system that you'd have in WoW, where you're just inviting somebody to your group and then they'll appear next to you and you can start doing stuff within the world. It's a kind of setup that I think so many games have wanted to do but haven't really figured out how to make it work yet. The idea that you can have a game which is solo player, online or co-op at the same time is something that's very rare to find, and given that it's also free, that's just another bonus. Aside from all that, Where Winds Meet has a ton of other content. It's built around a large open world with real visual variety between regions, where different parts of the map carry their own distinct atmosphere, architecture and feel. The latest update has pushed that even further with the addition of Liangzhou, a snow-covered frontier of mystical floating islands and intrigue. There are these almost surreal visual torches, a city that appears to float in mid-air, a jade pool formed by moonlit waterfalls, while still being grounded in a recognizable historical aesthetic rooted in Tang Dynasty China. And the complete opposite of that is the new Hexi region, which is an arid desert full of new points of interest, enemies, and it has its own story to tell. Above Above all, for the content in Where Winds Meet, the development team has put considerable work into the authenticity side of things. They've digitally scanned actual historical sites across China and incorporated loads of cultural relics into the world, including faithful recreations of real-life art. One of the biggest additions of the recent update is a brand new weapon, the Heng Blade, which is directly inspired by Tang Dynasty weapon craftsmanship. What makes it interesting from a gameplay standpoint is the deflect and counter gameplay. Rather than the more passive approach of dodging and waiting for your window, the Heng Blade rewards actively parrying incoming attacks and immediately converting that into pressure of your own, including being able to interrupt bosses mid-combo and creating your own openings. It's much more of a proactive and aggressive defensive playstyle, if that makes sense, and it opens up a more distinct rhythm of combat. There are also 5 new bosses. Those are the Moon-Gazing Maiden, Wukan, Everdeer, Pocket Rupt Circus, and Sentinel Howlion. These aren't just combat challenges either, they have their own story within the world too. The one I want to highlight is Sentinel Howlion. It's a colossal otherworldly guardian beast, and it fights like one. It has a huge toolkit of fire and energy attacks, heavy sweeping and downward strikes, and it charges in sets of 3. The unpredictability is very much by design. Animal-style encounters in this game tend to keep you guessing in a way that more humanoid boss fights don't. For players who want to push further and try more difficult content, there are also trial bosses. These are bosses you've already beaten during the campaign or world bosses that have been brought back with a twist. Each fight has a specific list of tasks you need to hit within the encounter, and completing them will earn you special rewards. There's even a leaderboard tracking the top 20 players across different categories, so if you're someone who really likes to push their ability, then there's something for you here too. On top of that, Where Winds Meet focuses on an expansive story covering all parts of the world. The 1.5 update adds to that with 2 new main story chapters, and they cover a pretty wide emotional range between them. The first is Liangzhou Melody, rooted in themes of identity and belonging. It's a story about searching for somewhere you've never really been, as well as what home really means. It draws on a real Tang Dynasty musical tradition, and the way that history feeds into the narrative gives it a grounded quality that the game does well consistently. The second is the chapter Paper Moon. This takes a different approach entirely. It's quieter and more poetic, really something that you need to find your own meaning of. I'll keep the specifics for the story for you to discover, but the point is, after a session of boss fights or PvP, Where Winds Meet has a different gear it can drop into. The story and lore side of this game is substantial, and patch 1.5 only adds to it. Overall, the world of Where Winds Meet is impressive on both a visual and cultural level. This is a game that's clearly had a lot of thought put into it and what it's representing. There's a ton of flexibility how you play it. You can have your solo RPG mode, you can go full online, or you can go co-op and invite some friends. This is something I don't think enough people have noticed and not enough games do. In fact, I think in light of how well Where Winds Meet has done, more games will start using this format. And patch 1.5 has been one of the more content-heavy updates they put out, with new regions, a new weapon, new bosses, new main story chapters, and tons more. And of course, Where Winds Meet is free, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. You have AAA graphics, smooth content, regular updates, and it costs you nothing. The monetization in this game, because I'm sure you're interested, runs through cosmetics via gacha and a battle pass. So if you're a completionist type player, realistically you're not going to be getting everything, but the amount of game you're getting for just pressing download is pretty unreal. And it's cross-platform too, so if you're looking for something new to try out, this may just be the one. And beyond that, looking ahead, the next major update brings the journey to Qinchuan on April 30th. This is a single map that shifts through all 4 seasons as you explore it. The environment changes dynamically around you, so the world you're traveling through is constantly evolving based on where you are and what you're doing. This expansion also marks the conclusion of the Hexi expansion storyline, bringing together all the narrative threads that have been building throughout the region. There will also be a further 4 completely new bosses added to the game. So really, this world is always expanding. Thank you to Where Winds Meet for sponsoring and supporting the channel. You can click the link in the description down below to download for free and check out everything that comes with a recent patch and more. And of course, as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one very soon.